a player, I'm a player. I'm a player, I'm a player, I'm a player. I'm a player, I'm a player, I'm a player. Hi, everybody, and welcome to a Fantasy Dogs exclusive interview with Chris Banks. You can see him rocking out the game tag Hemisphere, and what other ones do you have, bro?
I have Chris Banks spelt with an X on DraftKings, but I'm Hemisphere everywhere else after my daughter.
Yes, he is the owner and founder of I Play Fantasy, a site that is just been that has been created, and we've been beta testing for a while. It's still in its soft launch. Amazing site. I encourage all of you guys to go check it out. But the reason why he's on the show today is he's had a lot of success in season-long DFS as well as in season-long fantasy as well as DFS, especially this year, taking down 2 seats to exclusive tournaments already. He's got one of 31 seats for the Fantasy Feud $1 Million Tournament and has a seat also at the Fantasy Aces Live Final. Chris, congratulations on that. Tell us a little bit about how you did it, bro.
Well, thank you very much. I'll tell you, both you and I have been playing for a while, and we work hard at it, and we love to play. And I think it's one of those things where you just sometimes it's your time to run good. I mean, it's kind of like other games where you kind of get in the zone. And, I think I am doing a few things differently this year that are helping me a bit. But I think, just most importantly, when it's come down to those tough decisions on this guy or that guy, I've just happened to be making the right decisions more often than not. Although I will point out, week 2 did still happen, and a money bonfire did still occur. So I certainly have not been crushing it across the board, but weeks 1 and week 3 were very good to me, and hopefully I can have more weeks like those two, and less like Drew Brees and the Saints treated me week 2.
I think everybody did the same. Everybody did dirty by the Saints and Drew Brees.
Yeah.
So don't feel bad about that. But I just wish I had the success you're having right now at DFS, man. That's pretty impressive, dude. 2 of these tournaments in 3 weeks. Like, has it taken a moment for that to set in that you're running that good right now?
I mean, no, not really. I mean, I had goals coming into this season. My goal was to qualify for a feature tournament. There's a lot of good competition out there, particularly when you play at some of the higher dollar level entry quals that I play. I favor the smaller entry field tournament sizes, which are normally a higher dollar amount, and you just see great player after great player after great player in those things, and so to have a couple seats already just is awesome, and so at this point it's just a matter of kind of revamping my goals for the year and trying to ride the rush, and I know that at any moment there could be that downswing, that month or 2 that doesn't go my way, but while it is going good, I'm just trying to stick with the same routine week after week and just see how far I can take it.
So, Banks, what's the most important thing that you would want to tell players that are trying to reach the level of play that you're at right now?
I mean, the best general advice is just like anything in life. You get out what you put into it. It is a game of skill, and it is a game that you will improve at over time if you work hard. And by work hard, I mean working to learn the sport itself in terms of players that are good to take, but even more so learning the structure of daily fantasy sports and the differences that are inherent within playing more cash games, trying to grind up your bankroll, or whether you're attacking GPP, bigger size tournaments, or even somewhere in the middle, some of these live qualifiers that are a little bit higher dollar but have a few hundred or maybe 1,000. So I would say the most important thing is just trying to learn as much as you can about the strategy of each of those different types of daily fantasy offerings. And depending on what type of player you are, whether you're someone starting out trying to grind up your rolling cash games, or whether you just kind of play for fun and you like to take the shots at the big money, I think the most important thing is just know what your goal is, what type of contest that you're in, and try to learn as much as you can about building optimal lineups for that type of contest.
Sweet, man. Thanks a lot. Now, do you like what research do you put in on a weekly basis? Like, are there podcasts or fantasy shows that you watch? Like, what is your normal regimen?
Well, besides FantasyDonks.com, which
Thanks for the plug, bro.
I watch morning, noon, and night, of course. I mean, because once is just never enough. You guys are awesome. I'll tell you, I, my fantasy sort of media intake is spotty these days. I used to have a much more consistent regimen before I had an 18-month-old running around the house taking up all my time. But now I try to listen to some things that I can. I will tell you in general where I really target in the DFS space is information that I can gather from players that I know are accomplished and have proven themselves as winning players. I think that's an area where DFS is just has a wealth of information. That hasn't necessarily been the case in fantasy for some time, but now we're sort of DFS has helped evolve the analyst space to where some of these podcasts, for instance, the new podcast with Adam Levitan, CSU Ram, and Al Smizzle. Forgive me, I don't remember the exact title of it. It's a new one, but
Oh yeah.
that's a new podcast that you know those guys are all accomplished players, and Smiz and Ram are two of the best in the world. So
Oh yeah.
I do for the time that I have try to seek out information from like the Roto Grinders pros, DraftKings pros, Fantasy Insiders, RotoX, a lot of the sites that have players that are accomplished, and I find that that's generally better information than people that might have jobs as fantasy analysts but aren't necessarily out there competing.
Yes, and that was about as PC as you can say what you were going at there.
I'm proud of myself. Right now.
Yes, I am too, knowing how you really feel about that. Oh man, well, dude, thanks. Is there any like chunks of advice that you would give like players at all, like other than stick with it and learn as much as you can?
I mean, I can just tell you what has worked for me, and I have no idea whether or not this would necessarily work for someone else. But here's what I can tell you is a difference that I've taken this year from, say, previous years. I've kind of taken more of a macro approach. In previous years, when I first got into DFS, I was really excited and intrigued by the math of it all. And to be honest, I think I just went too overboard on trying to look at too many statistics and too many outside factors and kind of making sense of all these different things, these advanced metrics and the actual stats and the Vegas lines and everything. This year, I really decided I was going to take more of a macro approach, and by that I mean generally looking at football games, looking at the leagues, and just sort of making more general statements. Like, in other words, instead of being able to tell you 18 stats about why the Colts defense is bad, I'm just like, the Colts defense is garbage. I just know this because they are. Because actually, I'm sorry, Colts. After this past weekend, I'm doing you a disservice. The Chiefs defense is garbage, and we just know that, right? And so I think beforehand I was trying to get caught up in too much into, oh, well, this over-under line is 48 and this is 47 and a half. So, this is like a half point more. And so I'm going to give that more emphasis. And these advanced metrics, like, Pro Football Focus tells me this guy's elusiveness rating is like X amount and stuff. And I'll be real on it. I'm not saying anything negative about those types of that type of information that's out there. But I will tell you, for me personally, this year, I have decided to not use as much of that and just go with the general flow of the league. And so far through 3 weeks, it seems to be working.
No, on that, dude, I completely agree. Like we have got so much information out there that it is possible to reach information overload. And some of these guys have went next generation and next level so much on their stats that I mean, it's hard to figure out what they mean and what function they serve, even when they're trying to tell you what they do. And then trying to equate that into your calculus, like, it's easy to get off and choose the wrong people when you're overwhelming yourself.
Well, yeah, and what it was for me is I didn't feel like taking all of that information in was actually really even leading to better choices. A lot of times, I would take all the time to process all that information, and it would lead me to players that I could have just, just said, "Hey, that's a terrible defense, and that receiver's really good, and that's probably a good play if his price is good, right? Like, simple as that." And so having a child now and just gave me all the excuse I needed not to really bury myself in a lot of numbers this year,
Wow.
and just kind of going more on experience. I'm certainly looking at some matchup numbers and things, but just like I said, just more of a general macro approach.
Right on. Well, man, thank you for this awesome interview. I'm glad. Hopefully, our players find it really informative. It's always good hearing from an established pro high stakes player. Thank you for your time, bro.
Anytime, guys, and I just want to throw it out there too. Since you and I are talking right now, I mean, I've been good buddies with you for a long time, you and Lear and Murr, and I think one of the most important things to do is really, utilize your circle of friends that are as into fantasy as you are. Some of us have friends that are really into fantasy and others that aren't as much. But when you have buddies that are really into it, I think honestly the most helpful thing to do is bounce ideas off one another. I can tell you, like, a critical part of doing well for me this year has been having the opportunity to have a lot of time to talk with you guys. When we were out in Vegas for the first weekend, we sat there in that hotel room, and the four of us talked about every game and every player. And it was very helpful. And there were some things that I learned that night, and maybe some things that you all took away from what I was saying. And I certainly, made adjustments based on some of those conversations. And so I had a great week one. So I think that's really important. So I think, for anybody out there watching, I can vouch that these guys that give good advice, and they're very helpful, and they don't hit on everything, but you know what? Here's the secret: neither do I, neither does Ram, neither does Max Gallery, neither does any player in the world. And the idea is you want to be getting advice from people who are actually putting their money where their mouth is, and in general have a good process for evaluating DFS lineups. And you guys do a great job of it, and I'm lucky to have you guys as friends. There's no doubt that part of me doing well in fantasy is because I'm lucky enough to have a lot of degenerate friends that love it as much as I do. So,
well, no, dude, and thank you for those kind words, man. And I would just want to reaffirm to all our viewers out there that Banks is absolutely right. Some of the best fantasy information I get is talking it out with my group of guys every week and working those problems out. It gives you a chance to have that discussion and discourse that you don't get listening to most podcasts or watching a TV program or reading an article.
Plus, and it gives you the opportunity to maybe learn that you're wrong about something.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
You have to be open-minded when you go into this thing. I mean, if you get to a point where you just think you have it all figured out, that's when you're going to watch your money disappear. And so, I'm trying to, even though I've had a lot of success the first 3 weeks, believe me, I'm actually filled with more anxiety going into week 4 than I am confidence because, it's like I've been playing long enough to understand, like, you don't just start playing DFS and it's like, here's a seat this week and you get a seat this week and here's another. They don't just hand them out every week. And so, constantly work to improve. Even if you're running good, talk to people, get different points of view. Ask yourself, like, just because I'm winning, that doesn't necessarily mean there's not something I could improve about my lineup building. And so people are always getting better. And so just that's another big thing that I would throw out there is just never be content and just keep trying to learn.
All right, kids. I think that wraps it up, Banks. Thank you for a wonderful interview. Yep. It was a pleasure, sir.
You guys can follow me out there at iPlayFantasy on Twitter. Just tweet about a lot of DFS stuff and random stuff, dad life, all that good stuff. So at iPlayFantasy, look forward to seeing you guys on Twitter.
Guys, and his Twitter page, looking at his followers, great place to get a list, his and mine, of people you want to follow as well. Good high stakes players in the DFS community, and sports beat writers from all the different teams. Like, very good information. Make sure you check it out, like and favorite him. For FantasyDunks.com, I'm Sean Big Papa Williams. That was Chris Banks. You guys have a great afternoon, evening, whenever you're watching this, and we're out.